Hello and welcome to week 4 in Rhetoric 3326. This is Dr. Harris, and I just wanted to create a short video to introduce this week's materials because it'll be our first major assignment, and that's the proposal for the formal report. So I'm just going to walk you through the components of the proposal and explain a little bit about each one of the components and why completing these are going to be important as we move forward with future assignments like the progress report and the formal report itself. So I'm starting at our UALR Blackboard page, and then I'm going to move right over to the schedule, and we'll talk a little bit about how the proposal fits in for the whole project. As you can see, the proposal is linked in here in week 4. I'll click on that and open that up. There are two other key elements that I'll want you to review as you're writing the proposal to help you understand how to better compose that. And those are going to be also linked under this assignments button under the formal report. The first is the report itself. So if you just scroll down and click on report, you're going to see the report document that outlines what you're going to be doing for the final report itself. So take a little bit of time and review that if you haven't already. And also under that reports button, look at the progress report. We're going to be doing the progress report in 2 weeks, and that's going to relate directly back to the proposal. So creating a strong proposal will help you create a strong progress report as well. So let's go in and look at the proposal itself. The research proposal is going to be due this Sunday, and the reason that it's important in the scope of the project is that it helps me see that you've really solidified the problem that you're going to address, that you understand the steps or the components it's going to take to complete the research for the process, and that you have some sources already located that get you started in completing the research itself. The textbook on page 343 to 345 gives you some guidelines and examples for creating proposals, and the template on page 345 is going to be what your proposal looks like. So you'll open a Google document and you'll create that document based on that template on page 345, and that's listed here in the assignment in case you forget that as well. The only difference is going to be your headings. The headings are going to look a little bit different than the example in the textbook, and the website goes over what your headings should be, and I'm going to talk about each one of these just a little bit. So your proposed study, your first heading is going to be proposed study, and that's going to be a brief summary of what you're proposing to research. So just like a line or two, and the textbook gives a good example. Here's what I want to do, what I propose to study as this project moves forward. The statement of problems should come next, and that's about another paragraph. That's just going to be an overview of the problem that necessitates the research you're going to complete and the qualifications you have to complete this research. So in other words, number one, why is this a problem? Why should I give you the go-ahead to complete this research? Is it worthwhile for you to be completing the course? And then what your qualifications are. Why is it that you're passionate about this? What knowledge or expertise do you have on the subject that makes you uniquely qualified to complete the research on this particular problem? Third, the intended audience. Technical writing is very audience driven, so I need to know the specific person or people you're writing to who can make a decision about addressing this problem and implementing the recommendation that you're going to come up with based on your research. And this is always a tricky one. It should be, as much as possible, specific people. So think about you handing over this report to a person, a group of people, a body of people. Your audience shouldn't be all of the parents of a school, all of the voters in a district. That's not a possible audience for your report. What you're going to need to do is target a person or people who can read and make decisions about what you're talking about. And if you are having some trouble with that, email me and we'll brainstorm that. Scope of proposed study. This is going to be extremely important when we move into that progress report, because the progress report is going to detail what you've done to complete these steps. So the scope section is going to outline particular stages that you're going to have to complete in order to get to writing that report. Writing the report itself is not a part of this. So one of your items is not going to be, I'm going to write the report. what you're going to be looking at are, here's what I have to research, here's what I have to analyze, these are the places I'm going to have to look for information. And there's a really good example of how to write the scope on that page 345, the specific language you should use, the structure of that list. And again, whatever you say in the scope of proposed study, I'm going to ask you to follow up on in the progress report itself. And then finally, find 5 sources you've gathered in your research. So it can be the ones that you've used from last week with a few additional ones, and annotate those. And what I mean by annotate is tell me how you're going to use them, tell me what material they contain, how is this going to be a part of your final and future report, and make sure that you cite those using whatever citation format you would like to use for the final project. It doesn't matter to me necessarily if you use MLA or APA, just that you choose a format and use it. The Think About It section summarizes some of what I've already talked about here, but will be good for you to review as you work through the proposal. A final thing I wanted to note about the proposal itself as it relates to the report. The proposal is addressed to me. I'm the audience for the proposal. So I'm giving you the go-ahead to complete the research that you're about to complete. The proposal is not proposing your recommendation or solution. So let's say you want to, the problem is drainage in your community. You don't have sufficient sewer drainage or runoff drainage. You're not proposing the solution in this proposal. All you're proposing in this proposal is that you research a solution. So this is coming directly to me so I can give you the go-ahead. I have to okay your proposal before you can complete the research. So if you don't submit the proposal, or you submit a proposal that isn't complete or doesn't work well, I'm going to bounce it back to you and ask you to rewrite it to complete it before you move forward. So you can't skip this project and complete the rest of this assignment. Most people are okay with the proposal step. Some people get a little bit hung up, but that's okay. If you take a little bit longer to work through it, that's fine. I can work with you. Just make sure that you have as much of it done as you can so that you can move forwards in week 5, 6, and 7 and work on the body of the report. Last of all, the last thing I wanted to talk about really briefly is the formal report, the final report. A lot of the key of technical and professional writing is writing not necessarily what you thought you would write at the beginning of a research process. So a lot of you say, I'm going to write to propose that, let's say with a storm drainage issue, we need additional curbs on our street. And I'm going to start out to argue that we need those curbs. Well, in the process of doing your research, maybe curbs aren't the best solution. So don't limit yourself to just what you think the solution should be and try to write to that solution. Let the research dictate the solution that you propose. You might find out through researching that the initial idea you had is completely not logical or feasible. Don't let that hold you back. Write to the recommendation that you need to recommend. So your recommendation might be something completely different than where you started. That's okay. The main point is that you identify that there's a problem, that you prove that there's a problem through your research, that you research solutions to the problem, and that you make a recommendation for what the solution should be to a specific audience. And all of those steps are listed if you go back to the report section in this area if you kind of forget or get confused. So just keep coming back to that. Who's my audience? What is the problem? How do I know there is a problem? What is the solution? How can this solution be implemented for this problem to this audience? If you have any questions, email me. Let me know as soon as possible so we can work through them before you have to submit the proposal. I really look forward to reading your ideas. This is a great class to work with, and I'm excited about the projects that you're going to be doing. So let me know if I can help you in any way. Have a great week.